I'm going to walk you through how to can jam so it's shelf stable. I use a 20-quart stock pot with a rack on the bottom, half-pint jars. I preheat on medium to get the jars hot. If you have hot jam, you want hot jars. Hi, I'm Jennifer. Welcome back to my kitchen. So I made strawberry jam today and I wanted to show you how to water bath can. So when I first started making jams, I did freezer jam and I just would make the jam like the recipe would call for and put it in a glass jar, 1 cup glass jar with about a 1/2 inch head space, and let it cool down and then pop it in the freezer. Then you have jam whenever you want. And then over time I was ready to try water bath canning, and that makes it shelf stable, so that way I can put it in my back pantry and have extra flavors and I don't run out of freezer space, because in my house freezer space is at a premium. Wanted to show you some of the tools that you have to have, but honestly don't go out and buy the fancy stuff. It's not necessary. I started off with my spaghetti saucepan. It's a 20-quart stock pot. I'll show you a picture of it. Comes with a cover. It's stainless steel. They say non-reactive. Stainless steel is your go-to. I found these online. So it has like a little leg right here, so that way it keeps the jars from being on the bottom of your pan. You don't have to buy the fancy special canning pots, because if you have this spaghetti sauce pot that's about 20 quarts, that'll do ya. So you want the jars to be about covered by 1 inch of water when you're water bath canning. They sell these kits either online or in those big box stores. This is the funnel. This is the jar grabber. So this right here I don't use so much anymore, because the newer lids don't necessarily need to be heated, but if you had heated your lids, it would help. It's a magnetic tip. You would just be able to pull them off. It comes with a kit. But I just wanted to show you what it is, but tell you that it's not really necessary. Next is this tool right here. This is helpful because it has 1/4 inch increments. From here to here is 1 inch. So if today, since we're going to be water bath canning, it's going to be a 1/4 inch head space, and I'll show you what that looks like. My lids, I wash them ahead of time, I dry them, and then I put them aside so that way they're ready to go when I am. So these ones you can buy in a big box store or online as well. Of course, you have your rings, and the crystal jars, the 1/2 pints, are 8 ounces. Those hold 1 cup. So that's what we're going to be using today. You can make the smaller ones too, but 1 cup does great for my family. So what I have here is my jam. When you know it's ready to gel when it reaches 220 degrees when it's been cooking. And I find that the foam doesn't bother me. So I just basically stir it in. I have read that you can put butter, like a tablespoon of butter, in to help with that foam as well. So as I'm stirring it and just making sure that the foam is just basically getting reincorporated into it. If it's not pretty, it's not a big deal, because it's not like I'm selling it. This is just for me to use at home. But if you want to skim the foam off to make it pretty, by all means. I just noticed that it just seemed to be such a waste because it's just as tasty. So I think I'm ready to rock and roll. What I'm gonna do is, these are just the kitchen gloves. I use them to help from burning my fingers. They're not necessarily ones I would use for the oven, but when you're canning, you just need a little something to protect your fingertips. I'm going to use my jar grabber. Excuse me as I go off the camera, but I just grabbed a jar and I dumped out the water. I'm gonna put the funnel. I like to use a dark cloth, so that way if it spills and it stains, it's not a big deal. Those white towels, you go through those quick. And so what you have to do is stir around the edges. Don't use metal, because that would be, hot and cold together, not good. You want to make sure that the plastic or a rubber spatula. So I'm just rubbing out the extra bubbles from the side. And I'm measuring here. So what I want to do is make sure that my jam is 1/4 inch from the top. So I'm going to grab a rubber spoon. Maybe I just want a little extra, not like a whole ladle full. This is definitely one of those days where I'm going to be making extra dishes. Some people don't like the chunky kinds of jam, so if you wanted to use a immersion blender to get all the chunks out, that's fine too. We personally prefer jam with a little bit of fruit into it, so it's not quite the preserves, but it's enough to, every bite is like, burst of sunshine. So next I'm taking a clean, wet cloth. Again, I choose a dark one so it doesn't make a big giant stain. And I'm going to pinch the edges. And then, because it's not going to seal if the glass is dirty. So you want to make sure that any spills of jam have been cleaned up. It's easier to grab without the gloves. So now I'm putting on my clean, it's been washed and cleaned and dried. I'm putting it on, taking a ring, center it, finger tight. And then I'm going to put it into the canner. So I'm going to do that 8 or 9 more times, and then I'll show you what to do next. I'll be right back. So when I'm canning, I always want to make sure that I use hot jars for hot liquids. So I had simmered empty jars while I was making my jam, and then I emptied the water back into the pot, and want to make sure there's about 1.5 to 2 inches over the jars in order for it to can. So right now it's at a simmer, so I have to wait till the full boil before I start my canning timer. Jams are 10 minutes, so that 10 minutes will begin once it becomes a boil and I've covered it. Don't forget to make sure that you have the jars not directly on the bottom of the pan. So again, there's that rack that I found online. Just measure your pan that you already have and get one that's the same diameter. Okay, my 10-minute timer just went off. So I'm going to take the lid off and set it aside. Turn it off the heat, and I'm going to let it sit in the pan for 5 minutes. So the 5 minutes is up. I'm taking out the jars. I make sure that I lift it up straight. Try not to tip it. Even if there's water on top, the water will evaporate, so don't try to help it. Don't touch the lids over here. Don't try to tighten them again, because you'll just end up creating a false seal, which will allow air and bacteria to get inside. So you're going to leave it undisturbed for 24 hours. So I finished canning my strawberry jam 24 hours ago, and they just sat on the counter the whole time. You will notice that the jars have sealed when you push down on the lid, and it doesn't spring back up. It's just sucked right in. This is loose, and that's okay, because the reason why is because when it's sealed, the lid itself suctioned inside, and so I can easily take this off. You want to make sure that you don't push down on this during the first 24 hours, because it will create a false seal. So just let it pop by itself. If for some reason it does not pop by itself, consider that the first one that you're going to use, and just put it in the refrigerator. So what I'm doing is I'm just taking a soapy cloth and washing the outside. Just make sure there's no extra jam. Put them on the towel. I can tip these sideways to be safe, but what I'm going to do is let them sit on the towel. I can come along with a towel on top, to dry at the top, but I'll let them air dry for a little bit more. I'll use a Sharpie to label it with what's inside and when I made it, so that way I know how to make sure I'm rotating my stock so it doesn't get too old. Shelf stable usually lasts for about 12 to 18 months. Usually finish it before that anyways. But that's it. So I'm just going to continue washing my jars. Thanks for joining me. I hope you have a great day.